Yes, job people, this is Michael Shamaya representing. I will say, Haile the Lion Voice, saying it is time for the lions and the lionesses to tell their own story. King David killed Goliath with a stone, we original dread.
I'm Nana Faraka. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
So you can see by the speech, the context is that he's talking about the period of enslavement, colonialism, all of these things that Africa went through, the people who never set foot on the continent, the people who were born and died, gave their blood, preserved the independence. This is the whole global African diaspora. It's a powerful speech, and he's saying the Armageddon for these set of people has passed. You know what I mean? So in that context, the wars that are happening in Africa, these skirmishes, which majority are being funded by, they're part of the wider geopolitics as these massive powers vie for resources on the continent. Those are not part of the Armageddon. They're tragic, but they are skirmishes in the grand sense in terms of the scale of what is to come.
The year is 1892, and the land of Ethiopia has been experiencing 4 years of terrible famine and drought. They call it the Kikuken, or the evil days. At least 1/3 of the human population and 90% of the cattle have died. The hyenas have feasted on so many carcasses that they have become overweight and barely able to move. Just when the people could take no more of the evil days, a woman named Wasiro Yeshimabe is giving birth in a place called Ergersa Gora. This is her 9th attempt to bring forth new life. Her previous 8 attempts only resulted in death. Will this child live? Thankfully, a healthy baby boy is born. His first cries are drowned by thunder and lightning flashes across the night sky. The heavens open up and torrential rain starts to fall. Ethiopia's drought is over, and the baby boy is given the name TAFARI, meaning one to be feared or respected. LIDJ's father, RasTafari, is a very important man in 1892 Ethiopia. Although he is overjoyed at the birth of his newborn son, he cannot spend much time with him. RasTafari is the governor of Harar and must get back to the famous walled city to deal with its affairs. Furthermore, he is the foreign minister of Ethiopia, and having traveled to different places in Europe, he is very aware of the material and military advances they have made and the looming threats they pose to his country. RasTafari knows that the majority of Ethiopians have no idea what is coming, and that he has to work that much harder to secure the realm. LIDJ would grow up to become the legendary emperor, Haile Selassie I. To understand his journey, we must first understand the Ethiopia that he was inheriting, and what it was like when he was born in 1892. Get your copy of Kwesi Bansu's book, Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1, The Rise of the Priestly Warrior Kings, and increase your knowledge about the history, politics, and culture of Ethiopia in 1892, and how it connects to the rest of African and world history at the time. Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1 is available for purchase at www.bookmanexpress.pub. Please visit for more information.
I want to start by going to the speech from 1963. This is a speech His Majesty gave to the African leaders where he said, Africans' Armageddon is past. This is one of the main things that people quote to say that there will be no World War III. We don't have to worry. Don't fear monger. His Majesty say everything nice, King. What you talk about? So I'm going to read this passage so we can put some context around it so that people can see what exactly His Majesty was talking about. You know what I mean? So let us go to the speech and then we'll come forward. All right, so we're going to start by examining an excerpt of the world famous speech, the address that His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie gave at the founding of the Organization of African Unity. The quote that many Rastafari use, which is Africa's Armageddon is past. We're going to examine the whole section that comes from, so we can bring some clarity to the context. And I am stating here that when someone's used that, I'm not saying all, I'm saying when someone's used that, they use that to say there will be no World War III, there is no Armageddon on this earth, it's done, everything is airy, don't fearmonger, just live, you know what I mean, and do ya do. So I don't like that argument because it kind of negates the necessity for collective preparation, and the potential of how bad things can really get on earth in spite of Africa's uprising, because remember, we have hundreds of millions of Africans that live outside of the continent. So this is also very important. So I'm going to start. This is from the selected speeches. If you have the selected speeches, it's from 242, page 242. The subheading is Fettered and Bound. So it says, glory to word, glory to sound, glory to the Holy One of creation. It says, the events of the past 150 years require no extended recitation from us. The period of colonialism into which we were plunged culminated with our continent fettered and bound, with our once proud and free peoples reduced to humiliation and slavery, with Africa's terrain cross-hatched and checkerboarded by artificial and arbitrary boundaries. Many of us, during those bitter years, were overwhelmed in battle, and those who escaped conquest did so at the cost of desperate resistance and bloodshed. Others were sold into bondage as the price extracted by the colonialists for the protection which they extended and the possessions of which they disposed. Africa was a physical resource to be exploited, and Africans were chattels to be purchased bodily, or at the best, peoples to be reduced to vassalage and lackeyhood. Africa was the market for the produce of other nations and the source of the raw materials with which their factories were fed. And here comes the big quote. Today, Africa has emerged from this dark passage. Our Armageddon has passed. Africa has been reborn as free. Africa has been reborn as a free continent, and Africans have been reborn as free men. The blood that was shed and the sufferings that were endured are today Africa's advocates for freedom and unity. Those men who refused to accept the judgment passed upon them by the colonizers, who held unswervingly through the darkest hours to a vision of an Africa emancipated from political, economic, and spiritual domination, will be remembered and revered wherever Africans meet. Many of them never set foot on this continent. Others were born and died here. What we may utter today can add little to the heroic struggle of those who, by their example, have shown us how precious our freedom and human dignity, and of how little value is life without them. Their deeds are written in history. So, very powerful excerpt, but we can see very clearly that when he says that today Africa has emerged from this dark passage, our Armageddon has passed, he's talking about this period. The events of the past 150 years require no extended recitation from us. The period of colonialism into which we were plunged culminated with our continent being fettered and bound. So he's talking about this period, which was really an Armageddon struggle for us, you know, and we've emerged from that. Now, this is not saying that there is not peril for the rest of the world, and we have to make that very clear. And again, I position is repatriation is a must. Come out of her, my people. Matthew 24, when you see the abomination of desolation stand in the holy place. All of these things, Isaiah 43, I shall say to the north, give up to the south, keep not back. All of these things which speak of this great gathering and the return to the motherland. That is where we stand as a response to this global war, because we're saying that despite the wars and the skirmishes and the insurgencies that are happening on the continent, these are being funded by outside powers. And as the world is plunged and the resources of the great powers goes into destroying each other, they are not going to have the same resources to cause havoc on the continent, which will give rise to a golden era of African development. That is the position that we have. So that would be consistent with saying Africa's Armageddon has passed. But as for the rest of aeration, I don't interpret that as that, and we're going to read some other things, but that is where we are with that quote.
Mighty. So you can see by the speech, the context is that he's talking about the period of enslavement, colonialism, all of these things that Africa went through, the people who never set foot on the continent, the people who were born and died, gave their blood, preserved the independence. This is the whole global African diaspora. It's a powerful speech, and he's saying the Armageddon for these set of people has passed. You know what I mean? So in that context, the wars that are happening in Africa, these skirmishes, which majority are being funded by, they're part of the wider geopolitics as these massive powers vie for resources on the continent. Those are not part of the Armageddon. They're tragic, but they are skirmishes in the grand sense in terms of the scale of what is to come. And we have to acknowledge the carnage in Congo, the millions that have died in Congo, of course. That is something that even from His Majesty time, His Majesty sent soldiers to stabilize the Congo in the 1960s. But these are, conflicts that we're going to see them starting to die down, because as the World War III intensifies, all of these countries need resources from Africa, so they're scrambling to trade with Africa, but they're not going to be able to exert the same type of military presence. They're going to have to withdraw their military forces to be able to redirect them into other theaters of war, because, these Western economies in particular, they're bankrupt. They cannot, the stretched out empire. And this provides the window of opportunity. So I am not disagreeing in any way with the statement that Africa's Armageddon has passed. We're just putting it into context that because he said Africa's Armageddon passed, doesn't mean the world Armageddon or the Armageddon war spoken of in the prophecy has passed. No.
The second beast was given the power to give breath unto the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak, and caused all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced the people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark on their right hands and in their forehead. Gone down in the new world order, new world order. Happy work harder, happy pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip, and them prison cell, that's new slave ship. New world order, new world order. Happy work harder, happy pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip, and them video game, that's new matrix. It's a new world order. Them start bleaching, diverse doctrine, them start preaching. Angels for the stars they reaching, they're falling, never hear the lion calling. New world order, them fight against the poor. Machine and robot that sweep them floor. Machine and robot that run them stores. So them create disease ones without any cure. The new world order, new world order. Happy work harder, happy pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip, and them prison cell, that's new slave ship. New world order, new world order. have to work harder, have to pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip and them video game that's new matrix. It's a new world order, them pan cell phone. Families don't even talk in their home. Village farmers get murdered by drones. Village mistress get murdered by stones. New world, so you better call Tyrone. Tell him prepare, use the whole earth a war zone. New world, Satan lost for the throne, so we must exit us and leave him alone. In the new world order, new world order. Have to work harder, have to pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip and them prison cell that's the new slave ship. New world order, new world order. Have to work harder, have to pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip and them video game that's the new matrix. It's a new world order. Check the energy, make it so hard to go have a family. Man, woman and child, well that are the trinity. Preserve the bloodline, Solomonic dynasty. Vatican them say you beat at them malice and them thief. Harvest and them reap in the global elite. That's when the elder him said don't you weep. The lion destroyed them by the words that he speak. In the new world order, new world order. Have to work harder, have to pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip and them prison cell that's the new slave ship. New world order, new world order. Have to work harder, have to pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip and them video game that's the new matrix. And it was also forced on the people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark on their right hands and in their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast, or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. In that number is 666. Sila.